thank you to the Alumni Association for hosting us today. It's our fourth annual presentation, and every year it gets more exciting, and we achieve things that we never thought we would ever be able to do. I also want to thank all of you that have registered and were able to attend. And basically, today we'll be highlighting three new companies after we talk a little bit about CAV Angels. And Elizabeth will lead us through that. She is our first ever Entrepreneur in Residence, or EIR. But today's companies will be the seventh, eighth, and ninth companies that we've showcased through this Alumni Association sponsored event. We had absolutely no idea when I first got involved in 2017 that we'd be here today having invested $24 million in 50 companies, and that we would have over 500 members, 155 of whom are full members or investing members, close to 100 educational members, and over 300 student members on our rolls. It also bears mentioning that, number one, we're organized as a not-for-profit, although we try to make money with every one of our deals, certainly. And also, we are not affiliated with UVA. We're just very deeply involved and very much committed to the success of the UVA entrepreneurial ecosystem, from Central Grounds to UVA Wise, from North Grounds to the Metro Grounds up in Arlington. And so that's who we are. Before I introduce the next two speakers from CAV Angels, I wanted to give a shout out to both Dick Crawford, who is our chair emeritus and one of the original co-founders of CAV Angels, who continues to head up our education committee, and Jim Chang, who I expected to be here right at the moment, but apparently there's a power outage in his area of Charlottesville. So Jim, I'm sure, will join us if, in fact, he gets the chance and is able to do that. But he's another co-founder. He's my former co-chair, and he's a member of the executive committee and a board member. I also want to thank our sponsors, Blue Ridge Bank, Clockwork, who is our alternative investment platform, RFCA, also known as Robinson, Farmer and Cox. They're our tax and accounting advisors, and Shuru Law with Rahul Keshup. Rahul is our general counsel and takes care of all of our matters. With that, the next speaker is going to be our recently announced chairman of the board, Scott Ukrop. He's a managing director at NRV, and a name that's very well known throughout the state of Virginia and on grounds, whether it's Central Grounds or over at Darden. But I'm going to let him talk in a second. I'd also like to introduce, though, our second presenter, who's going to take you through most of the CAV Angels information, and that's Elizabeth Blankenship. Elizabeth joined CAV as an educational member only a year ago after founding her first company, which swept the V-Cup competitions while she was a second-year Darden student. When interest rates spiked, her second company that she founded, she kind of put on the shelf for a moment. I'm sure that'll be resurrected sometime. But her high level of involvement in due diligence and other projects as an educational member led to the logical request for her to become our first ever entrepreneur in residence. And just earlier this week, she was voted onto our board, basically the third board member coming through the ranks. We have two of our former student members on our board now. They're both in the VC world, and Elizabeth, coming out from the educational member ranks, is obviously a highly representative entrepreneur. So we're listening to our customers, and we basically are enjoying the success of people who have come through our program. Given this arc of success, you can all project where Elizabeth might be next year, and I'd be happy for her to be leading the presentation today. So with that, pass it over to Scott for some comments, and then on to Elizabeth. Thank you again.
Yes, thanks so much, Rich, and it's a pleasure being here. And just not much to add other than I was excited to join CAV Angels, kind of building on the success of what Jim Chang and Dick Crawford built, and just under the leadership of Rich, and just kind of what the group has done. Just it's great to have Elizabeth now on the board as entrepreneur in residence. Just the degree of professionalism that I've seen in my short tenure here has been amazing. The way the organization's run, the diligence and the process coming from the both the Rich in his capacity, Elizabeth in her capacity, then the student interns who are just really amazing and just kind of leveraging sort of the power of the UVA student base. And just I'm excited about sort of the future of the organization as we um, build upon this foundation. We've got an incredible UVA network. We look forward to growing the membership and investing in promising UVA related companies. So um, thank you all for being here. So with that, I'll turn it over to Elizabeth. Thanks, Elizabeth.
Awesome. Thank you, Scott. Well, both of these guys have given you a good picture, I think, so far of what CAV Angels is, but I will just kind of dig into that a little bit now to lay the groundwork. CAV Angels is the fastest growing angel group in the country. Rich gave us a couple of those metrics, but I will just highlight that. We have 155 full members, that's the investing members, over 300 student members, and over 90 educational members. That means we have well over 500 active members, which was 50% growth year over year. We're part of the ACA, the Angel Capital Association. And so that's how we know we really are one of the fastest growing. Our mission is simple. We are here to serve the UVA entrepreneurial community. I usually paraphrase this by saying we elevate entrepreneurship at UVA by funding, educating, connecting, and mentoring. So there's a place for everyone at CAV, student, alum, founder, VC, whoever you might be. I think that you'll find something about CAV that will interest you. Benefits to CAV Angels members. I'll highlight 5 main things quickly, as you can see here. So access to our deal pipeline. We have a once a week hour-long meeting on Tuesdays going through the pipeline of our deals, highlighting everything from new funding requests to return deals from former portfolio companies who are raising again, as well as the deals that are in consideration. So if a deal is kind of in diligence or pre-diligence, we'll ask the investing members, are you interested in this? And then we can move forward from there. There are tons of mentorship opportunities with current graduate and undergraduate students at UVA. I would say this is in like 2 different main buckets. One is the students who are interested in founding or in startups. And one other group are the students who are interested in working in VC, angel investing, consulting. Like there's a couple other, interesting careers that kind of align with a lot of our alumni investing members. The diligence reports, this is really big. I know it's hard to assess the, opportunity of a deal yourself without a lot of resources. So really one of our big advantages are our diligence reports. This is something I head up as the entrepreneur at residence for all reports that are not healthcare related. We have a separate healthcare advisory committee composed of doctors and practitioners that look at our healthcare deals to be able to give a full assessment. And our diligence reports could be anywhere from 20 to 50 pages and are really comprehensive. In addition to that, we then have live pitches and Zoom meetings. So one of the amazing things about CAV is you don't have to be in Charlottesville to take part in the benefits of UVA. So the founders who are seeking funding from CAV members pitch to us twice, actually. So they'll have a preliminary pitch when we're assessing if they'll go into diligence. And then there are all member pitches where anyone can attend, student, educational, or investing members once we've completed the diligence report. So really interesting, event there. And then I previously mentioned this just really quickly that we have access to the ACA, the Angel Capital Association. They have very vast resources of educational programs, informational items on how to, best angel invest for you, forming your own thesis, and so on. And then we also have access to the big ACA summit, which happens in May of every year. All of this And I haven't even mentioned the opportunity yet of investment returns. So I'll dig into that now. Okay, by the numbers, our numbers are pretty big. We have 50 portfolio companies. That means we've done 50 separate investments, or investments in different companies, but oftentimes we've done return investments. That accounts for over $24 million already invested and counting. We're moving very quickly towards 25 million, over 500 total members, as I mentioned. And then something that I'm going to highlight in a moment is that we have over 30% female founders accounted for within our portfolio, which is far and above industry standard and something that I personally feel very proud of and very passionate about. You can kind of see a little snapshot here on the side. We have been in the news a lot, I would say in the last year, quite frequently, because less than 10 months ago, I think it was, we passed that $20 million investment landmark. And as you can see, we're moving really closely to 25 already. Luminoa, Neil Piper, one of the founders that's here today, was that, milestone investment. So we're really glad to be able to focus on his opportunity today. Oh, I actually have one more thing, sorry, before this slide changes, which is that the returns, can be unsure for an angel investment. This is a really early stage investment, but we do have a couple things to note. Our group is not that old, but we have already had 2 monetizations. Both of those monetizations had over a 6x return. The first one was Dive Tech. That was a 6x return, and it was 24 months after investing. The second one was Phytonics. That was another 6x return, but that was only within 14 months of investing. So really impressive turnaround. We've also had 2 additional portfolio companies get acquired. So they are on their way to monetization shortly, hopefully. Of course, there's no upside without the downside, but I think even the downside is pretty impressive. Out of the 50 portfolio companies that we've invested in, we've had 5 quote unquote failures or shutdowns. That's 10% if you're counting by total ventures invested in. But if you look at it from dollars invested, it's less than 5% of the total that we have invested so far. So pretty good metrics there. As you can imagine, investing in 50 portfolio companies with this amount of money keeps us very, very busy. And there are a lot of deals for our investing members to consider. So that has led us to our natural next step, which is our sidecar fund. So many folks just don't have the time to look at all of our good DD for each deal and consider it as part of their own investment. Our new sidecar fund is a way to get involved and support the ecosystem and invest in CAV curated deals without having to do the work. The choice to offer a sidecar fund for us was a really natural next step to widen the appeal of our mission to CAV alums that, have seen the success we have enjoyed. They'd like to move closer to the UVA entrepreneurial ecosystem. They would like to get more involved, give back, whatever it might be, but are looking for a way to do that with limited time commitment. This is, I'll walk you through quickly, I think, the fund structure. I think someone came off of mute. Thank you so much. I'll walk you quickly through this. So we're targeting an offering of a $5 million fund. It's going to have a 2% administration fee and 20% carry. I'm going to highlight the carry specifically for a moment because I think that's one of the most important parts and something that's really, really interesting. 10% of the carry is allocated to the fund administration. And then the remaining 10% is split between our nonprofit mission and our carry partners. So 5% of the carry goes back to CAV Angels Incorporated, which is a nonprofit. And then 5% will be shared amongst our carry partners, 4 of which we've already announced. You might see some missions on here that you personally know or feel passionate about. One of them is Seville Biohub, the One Love Foundation, the CAV Futures Foundation, which is for student athletes, and UVA Alumni Association's Home for Every Who. So really interesting sort of give back component, which is really core not only to our sidecar fund, but really core to who we are as an organization. Of course, you still have the upside opportunity for angel returns, so kind of hard to pass up. I mentioned this briefly before. So CAV Angels invest in all great founders. What that means is it's not just pattern recognition. It's not just whatever founders we've seen before. CAV's mission is to invest in the best opportunities, the best ventures with really great founders. We don't have a DEI mandate or any type of social impact mandate. However, because we have opened, proverbially opened up to investing blindly, we've found that when we took a step back and assessed our portfolio, we actually have some really impressive metrics that we're very proud of. So as I mentioned, 30% of our portfolio companies are female founded. That's accounting both by the dollars and by the number of investments. So that means that around $7 million and counting has been deployed into female founded companies. We have one of our female founders on the call today, so you'll be able to meet her in the breakout rooms. 44% of our board members are women. I think I just jumped that up by like 2% or something when I joined this week, so really excited about that. And then across our organization, CAV boasts an incredible metric of 56% female team. I'll just mention the other side of this slide, which is pretty bad industry standard, I would say. So we don't measure from the bottom, but this is kind of what we're comparing to, which is that only 2.1% of VC investments last year went to women. Women account for only 8.6% of VC venture capitalists. And so I think in comparison, I'm pretty proud of this. And then going beyond just specifically female founders and women, 18% of our portfolio companies are from minority founded or minority founders. That accounts for 9 out of the 50 deals. If you look at the dollars, 1.82 million and counting has been invested in minority founded companies. That's 7.6% of our total investments. This is something we just started looking at recently. And if you compare then to industry standard, Black and Latinx founders received 1 and 1.5% respectively. And then if you look at Black female founders, this is something that was brought to our attention by one of our portfolio founders, Nasa Shelley from Carpe Diem. 0.1% of VC funding goes to women of color. So it's definitely something that we are interested in pursuing further in our portfolio. Speaking of our portfolio founders, I think now would be a great time to introduce who we have with us today. So I mentioned a couple of these people already, but we have Neil Piper from Luminoa. They're revolutionizing the feeding tube. We have Alexander Olesen from Babylon Microfarms. That is indoor hydroponic farming system, so ag tech focused. And then Donna Edmonds from Brainbox, which is addressing MTBI, which are concussions.
Thank you very much, Elizabeth. It's great to be here with everyone today. Eric, Rich, thank you very much for the invite. We've been really fortunate to partner with CAV Angels, and they've been incredible, not just an investor partners, just become friends and partners of our organization, opening doors and networks to help us be successful. So it's an honor to be here with you all today. So I'm Neil Piper. I'm founder and CEO of Luminoa. We're a medical device company based here in Charlottesville that is reinventing tube feeding, which is a type of delivery of nutrition directly through an NG tube or through a gastronomy button for people that can't get all their nutrients orally. There's about 300 disease states that require this type of therapy, primarily driven by oncology, neurological disorders, and GI disorders. My background, I was fortunate to spend about 15 years in healthcare, about 10 of those years at Pfizer. Carried the bag at Pfizer as a sales rep right out of college in their neuroscience division. Ultimately went into emerging markets, worked in about 18 countries around the world. And before leaving Pfizer, was the president of a 350 person group of Pfizer leaders and scientists doing emerging markets work around the world. I was not looking to create a startup organization, although I was involved with several startups prior to Luminoa. But Luminoa is deeply personal to my family. I've got 8-year-old or 7-year-old twins who are both healthy today, and that includes this story of Noah that I'm about to tell. But in 2019, when Noah was 3 years old, as parents are sending their kids off to school, Noah started choking on his saliva, and we did a swallow study at UVA and found out that he had a rare brain tumor in his jugular foramen, which is in the base of your skull, kind of a hole on each side of the skull where all your arteries and nerves go through. And as a result, he was aspirating, he was choking on his food. We were admitted to UVA. He was in a medical coma for about 10 days, and ultimately was put on an enteral nutrition program, so getting this direct feed to his stomach. And he went through chemo for 15 months at the Battle Building there at UVA Children's, which is just an incredible institution. And while we were there, we experienced a lot of the pain points of the current treatment for enteral nutrition. I'll talk a little bit more about that in a moment, but nothing rips your heart out more than seeing kids who are suffering and struggling with their own story at UVA and walking around with an IV pole to get fed. And that's what led me to start Luminoa. When you ring the bell at UVA at the Children's Hospital, there's a big rocket ship painting, which is amazing. And, when creating the company name, I merged illumination and measure of light between objects with Noah's name to create a brighter future for people that require tube feeding. So you can see Noah here when he was 3, walking around with the current device. You have an IV pole, peristaltic pump that has a bag that you replace every 24 hours. You fill that bag with nutrients, and then you sit and wait. You can see some problems here. Noah's about to step on his tube, which is a really big issue. You can rip your button right out of your stomach and be in emergency surgery. And who wants their 3-year-old to be stuck on a couch upwards to 24 hours a day? And that was certainly the case for our family. So the 3 problems we set out to solve is to create a portable, more wearable device akin to what you see in the modern artificial pancreas insulin delivery space, reduce the dislodgement and risk of strangulation for kids with tube feeding, and then reduce the readmission of hospitalization due to malnutrition, which is about a $50 billion burden to the health system in the United States. The current device has 0 data tracking to know how much a loved one or a patient has received in terms of total calories in a day. So we developed a platform technology. We created a pump that's smaller than an iPhone. We really wanted to make this to be a very consumer-friendly device. Created a mobile application, so the device pushes data through BLE to a mobile application, so you can see total calories, hydration, and activity, and then that data goes into a cloud platform for providers to get alerts when a patient is not getting the necessary nutrients. And we wanted to create this device so small that someone could be wearing it and no one even knows. And so you saw the IV solution that Noah had. I'm lowering my desk because I'm wearing the device today, and you wouldn't even know I'm wearing the device, which is our goal. So you can see the devices here on my hip. Looks a lot like a pager for those that are on the phone that are old enough that know what a pager is. Some of my young engineers didn't have that technology. So I turn on the device. There's a swipe screen to open. You just click the device in. You've got a pre-filled nutrition pouch that's our administration set. And you push that into your pocket, connect to the device, and connect to your stomach, press start, and you go about your day. So now a child can go back to school, not be homeschooled, which is the case for a lot of kids today because you need a skilled nurse. If you're a working professional, you can work and have a discrete feed, and no one is looking at you and wondering, what that device is next to you. And so we really wanted to empower patients, and also to be able to be in control of one's own data is really important for us, with having large companies in this space to build a big moat around the business. We've got 8 patents submitted around key areas and novelty of this technology. And then post clearance later this year to early 2025, we'll enter a large market. Enteral nutrition's an $11 billion market, growing at 7% globally. 500,000 new patients every year, and it's a $1 billion U.S. home health market, which is where we'll enter shortly after FDA clearance. Reimbursement is, we'll plug right into current codes. This is CMS, Medicare, Medicaid. Total reimbursement per patient is $8,600 per year. And we're going to enter the market using current distribution networks, home health infusion companies, home health companies, and distributors. We've got partnerships with a lot of children's hospitals through pediatric FDA accelerators, such as LA Children's, Texas Children's, Children's National. It's the UVA and VCU through a partnership with Virginia Catalyst. And so we're building out our commercial strategy now in preparation for that launch post FDA clearance. And so we closed on a Series A round of a $6 million Series A, which CAV was instrumental of helping bring together that group of investors. And then we're going to submit to the FDA here in the next few months. We anticipate about a 6-month timeline for approval on a 510(k) Class 2 device, and then shortly after we'll close on a Series B to really ramp up our commercial team. We want to launch this product pretty close to that clearance window, not to lose any ground, because we have a lot of patients that are going to be depending on us. And so we've got aggressive timelines. We've got an incredible team leading the charge. Garrett Marin, he was the head of product at Tandem Diabetes, one of the largest diabetes pump companies in the world, which for the diabetes space is really helpful for us because they're used to having hardware, software coming together with Dexcom. And so we've got several UVA alum as part of the organization. Hill Johnson was one of our founding engineers. Jordan Word, who after her BME program with Abbott came back from San Francisco to join Luminoa, and just an incredible group of leaders building this technology. We've got about 32 people working on this project today, not all FTEs, but just an incredible group of talented leaders. As part of the board, we have Joe Andrasco, who teaches at Darden, a UVA alum. He runs Fry's Path Capital, which is a multi-family office group. And then Brian Hansen, who is a chief commercial officer at Tandem Diabetes. Marty Weiner is an advisor of ours. He was the founding engineer at Pinterest, first CTO at Reddit, who lives here in Charlottesville and advises several startups. And including our cap table is Fry's Path Capital, CAV Angels, Sands Capital, 757 Angels, and Virginia Venture Partners. And so we feel really fortunate to have incredible thought partners that are both investors, seasoned leaders, and all coming behind the common mission to make this happen for kids, which is to allow kids to roam freely, to run around. This is Noah today with his favorite little cat shirt. So to summarize, we'll commercialize a portable, intuitive, and connected device, $11 billion market, entering the home health market with a 510(k) clear device. And none of this would be possible without CAV Angels and our investors. And we're just really grateful to be here and talk with you all today. Thank you.
My name is Alexander Olson, co-founder and CEO of Babylon Microphones. And just for background, we started out at UVA between Hack CVille, which is now Forge, and the Social Entrepreneurship Program. we were introduced to hydroponics, which is a way of growing plants in water instead of soil. And we were looking at how could we build small scale farms in refugee camps to help people feed themselves in a more resource efficient way. And so that project morphed into this idea of microfarming, which is sort of small scale vertical farming to help businesses and communities grow their own food. We sort of tinkered with it for a year in college and then founded the company in April 2017. We went through the iLab at Darden, and we've been growing ever since. So I'm just going to run through some slides to introduce you to what we do and some of our latest updates. So in short, growing your own food is particularly challenging unless you have the expertise and the wherewithal to do it. Yet we know that hyperlocal food is better for you, it's better for the planet, and our goal is to make hydroponic agriculture as accessible as possible. And we're doing that today through the Gallery microfarm. So this is our flagship product here on the right. We currently have an installed base about 220 units with hundreds more going out this year. So these are self-contained vertical farming systems that are controlled via an app, and then we remotely manage them. So it is an automated farming experience. All you have to do is kind of plug and play. We plug seeds in and plant them, and then we grow them for you, alerting them when they're ready to harvest through an app. And you can grow about 50 different crop varieties from leafy greens through to like microgreens, flowers, and we're continually adding more crops to our menu. So here are some of the farms in the field. So these are sort of modular units that are designed to fit into the urban environment. So we leverage existing infrastructure. Wherever there's power and water, we can turn into an indoor farm. So we typically put these in cafeterias, in school classrooms, and in the lobbies of hotels. We do pride ourselves on the design, and then the units can be linked together to create farms of different sizes and scales to meet our needs, our clients' needs. And yeah, we have some fun clients. In the top right here is IKEA, so we're putting them in their stores. We're also working with Neiman Marcus and a few other retailers. And so, but behind the scenes is our remote management platform. So what we've done is essentially miniaturize the same semi-automation that you'd find in like a commercial greenhouse. We made it a lot smaller, and then we've designed it so we could run the farms remotely. So we have a farm operations and software team based in Richmond, Virginia, who are running hundreds of farms all across the world, all from a computer. So that is kind of the main innovation, where we're removing that kind of technical expertise from the operators and then controlling it remotely so that we can deliver a really reliable experience. We can do predictive analytics, and ultimately we can kind of scale this indefinitely. So the more units we install, we have one software platform that's running all of them. From the user's point of view, they have an app that's guiding them from seed to harvest. So it's sort of how-to videos, planting and harvest notifications. It takes around 30 minutes up to an hour a week to operate the farm. And we provide a subscription of supplies to the users. So it's like pre-seeded pods, nutrients, that kind of thing. They all arrive in the mail. And then again, it's just a really simple experience for the operator. So none of the people who own our farms have had any farming expertise, and yet we're able to make them successful wherever they are. And a big driver for our clients is around kind of engagement. So we do a lot of work with nonprofits, schools, senior living homes, and places like that, where they're deploying the farms to engage people around healthy and sustainable living. And then we also support a lot of the initiatives from developing curriculums for schools, horticultural therapy programs in hospitals and senior living, and really using the farms as a tool that is not only growing fresh food for the community, but actually becoming a kind of focal point where they can base different activities and teaching opportunities around. And behind that, we're driven by a lot of kind of sustainability initiatives. We work with the sourcing teams and for a lot of our clients, and we're helping them to deliver a safe and reliable experience that has kind of hyperlocal produce. And then because we're remotely managing these farms, we're tracking data on all aspects of the growing cycle. So for real estate developers and things like that, we can actually help them enhance their property values through different green building certifications. And we're seeing more and more projects now coming to us in the kind of design and construction phase, where they're basically, they might have solar panels on the roof, but they're going to have a bank of indoor farms in the basement, that kind of thing, to help them have a kind of more self-reliant source of produce. And just in terms of how we make money, we sell the units at $15,000 a piece, and then there's a $400 a month subscription fee And we're currently just ramping up predominantly in the kind of commercial food service realm. So our largest clients like Aramont, Compass, Sodexo, and they're driving a lot of our growth today, primarily in higher education and healthcare.
Thank you very much all for taking the time to listen. My original academic preparation is I'm an emergency medicine nurse. I run an emergency medicine group, been a hospital administrator along the way. I got an MBA and was a corporate officer for Baxter for several years, and got into being an entrepreneur after that. Next slide. Thanks. Okay, so what we've developed is a diagnostic test to diagnose and predict what kind of symptoms you're going to have if you have a concussion / brain injury. Most of the concussions happen in a place where they'll be either assessed on the playing field, in an emergency room, in an urgent care center, but we needed to develop a product that could take care of the testing whenever it happened, close to the concussion or up for the next couple, 3 days when you might continue to have symptoms, and wherever the subject presents. And we broke it up into segments. Most of those segments require a point of care diagnostic test in order to be as deployable as it needs to be, as sensitive, and as quick. Next slide. We spent a long time assessing who would be the best point of care device to do so. This is the one we chose, and lo and behold, that point of care device was bought by Roche Diagnostics and announced at the end of last year after the CAV Angels investment was made in late September. We've had a relationship with Roche over the years because they have purchased samples from us, but that's been a big opportunity advancer for us. Next. We want to make sure that in a brain injury, you measure both the biology that's affected as well as the functional aspect. And we're the first test that's been able to marry the two. We also have 3 projects underway. The current project where we'll be submitting to the FDA later this year, where we're partnering with Lamiro Diagnostics, now owned by Roche, is for the adult population, 18 years and older. It's called HeadSmart 2. We have 2,000 subjects enrolled in that study to date. HeadSmart, we have been funded by the NIH for a geriatric specific TBI diagnostic, which combines both components. And that's to find out when Granny falls and comes to the ED or in a nursing home, you want to know whether she has if she's having cognitive issues or she's acting a little goofy. They want to know whether it's dementia, Alzheimer's, or it's an injury that has to be diagnosed. And we're funded by the NIH for that. We also have a pediatric pilot underway. We have about 500 subjects that we've gathered for a pediatric test, which will be focused on 10 to 18-year-olds because that's when it really begins to start. We have partnered with USA Hockey on that. And we are in the RB round. We have raised the B round, done our first close. UVA was a participant right before we did the close, and part of our B round financing will go for the pediatric study. Next. This is a schematic of what the product will look like. It measures multi-markers, goes in the little box. We include a cognitive assessment tool. We run it through an AI algorithm, and we produce a report. Next slide. That report looks like this. This is what the emergency room or urgent care will get. It says your score on a scale of 1 to 100 for ATE, which is really what this is, acute traumatic encephalopathy. So your score on a scale of 1 to 100 is this. Do you have TBI, yes or no? And the next section will guide what kind of symptom you're most likely to have in the next 14, 30, or 90 days. So you can actually guide therapeutic intervention or refer to the correct next caregiver. Next. This is the multi-marker panel, just shows that we measure both, talks about what we measure on it. Next. I want to talk a little bit about what a leverage partnership looks like, because we have one with two of the major universities here in in Central Virginia. Carilion Virginia Tech is also an investor in the company, and we've been working with them for a couple of years. We actually funded their brain injury center to start. From the very beginning, we've been working with the University of Virginia. Donna Broshek, for those of you don't know, is the head of one of their neuropsychologists. She's the leading sports medicine neuropsychologist in the country. So we've been working with her as an advisor for a long time. CAV Angels, of course, came in about 2 years later than the group at Carilion did. Next slide. I wanted to talk about how when we work with the university, what the return becomes. So VTC put in $1.9 million, and we have turned around and back invested into that university. We fund their brain injury center because it's important as a site. And we also fund several studies with them. So we have turned around and put $880,000 back into their functional success, their group. Next. And CAV, as you know, put 586, and we have funded almost 112,000 to date, and still working on several projects with them. So we really take seriously what we do together. I should point out that the chairman of our scientific advisory board wanted me to mention that he is a UVA graduate. His name is David Aquanco. He ran your neurology center for 6 years, and just wanted to remind you that we have people on our scientific advisory board besides Donna that is our active UVA participants and alumni. Next. This is where we are, 2,000 subjects at the end of December 23. Talks about the different patient populations we're dealing with. Next. This is our sites. Around the country, we have what I've circled what we call super sites, which are folks we're doing ongoing work with, and the two big universities in Virginia are part of that. Next. This is just a list of the current enrolling sites and the roles that they play. We're going to be adding a couple of more sites to the geriatric study. Next. This is our full neuro portfolio. My history is cardiovascular medicine, and I launched all the cardiac markers for all the diagnostic. If you come in for an emergency room right now and you have chest pain, I developed and put into the market the very first troponin in the market, the first two, and have been involved and did the whole spectrum of cardiovascular disease prior to getting the opportunity to license in this technology. So we have been very serious about making this the ability to go when you injure your brain in the very beginning, all the way out to when you might have Alzheimer's. And we have chronic disease markers as well, which we'll be able to execute on. Next. Key assets we've developed. We have the largest biorepository, samples with imaging, actual imaging, plus diagnostic data and clinical data on all of these. This biorepository has been valued at somewhere between $12 and $15 million just because of the samples. Next. And this is our portfolio, our IP. We have 19 issued patents, 21 pending, and 13 core patent families. Next. This is kind of the last slide. When I think about TBI, I think about all the things that are important to integrate. Obviously, imaging. We're talking to imaging companies as well. It's the biggest market I've ever had my arms around, and I've sold a couple of diagnostic companies and raised quite a bit of money. Very much a passion of mine because I see an awful lot of particularly female soccer players that end up with longer term recovery than males because of the physical, they don't have as strong a necks, and they do an awful lot of headbutting in a twisting manner, which is a more dangerous kind of injury. So it's an important area to be dealing with, largest market I've ever seen, and we really do have the leadership team that can set the standard of care. And appreciate all the help that has come to bear from our UVA colleagues.